Yeah, I woke up refreshed and it was time for me to get out and do some things in the Cape Town area, my friends. When I tell you it is so beautiful in Cape Town, don't believe a lot of the stuff that you see on TV. Every part of Africa I've been to has been an eye-opening experience. And when I tell you that my Uber ride was only $1.97 US currency, I was with it. Y'all, when I tell you a friend invited me out on a Saturday to the Old Biscuit Mill, it was a vibe, y'all. They had vendors, food vendors, goods, live music, and a DJ. Y'all gotta get that. Y'all, when you all get to Cape Town, I would advise you to hit Long Street. It's just a cool little place to hang out. Imagine Bill Street with a relaxed vibe. Hold that thought. Did I mention that this spa, they feed you a buffet lunch and breakfast? And we had a visitor. Oh yeah, I was a track star that day. He jumped from table to table. Hey, you all must stop by the Gold. Get you dinner, a course meal, and a great show.
Because when people think apartheid, they think about physicality. They think about the bullet, they think about the baton, living in separate areas, places like Robben Island, things the eye can actually see. The physicality of the system is the after effect. The core of the system is never about what you do to the body. It's about changing the way society thinks. Because true separation lies in the mind itself. Convince or take two communities and build a brick wall between them. The brick wall is effective for as long as it takes one person to publicly cross over that wall. Prove to both sides that it's humanly possible, and it's like the wall doesn't exist. But manage to change the mentality that those two communities have on each other. They remain separate out of their own. Human nature is also very simple. Parent unintentionally teaches child. Child becomes parent, teaches child again. Go generations down the line. They can't even give you a clear answer of why they don't speak to the other side. But that separation is maintained. Unfortunately, this is one of the key weaknesses of society, or human nature itself. Now, apartheid, unfortunately, is not a new system to society or the history of the world. Apartheid has had many names and many forms throughout history in locations the world over. And each of these systems has learned from the ones that came before. By the time it came to the apartheid, the South African iteration, it was understood that subtlety is key. When you don't directly tell the people, you are teaching them to think in a certain kind of way. Eventually, the system will not just become a rule of law, it will become a state of mind. They won't even realize it's in full swing. To accomplish this, you don't use the baton and the bullet. Propaganda, the media of a nation, is very important. Because when the media is state-controlled strictly, only the state's narrative is shared with the nation itself. You're allowed to create a picture that the people will see. The second thing you'll find is the education system. Young minds growing up are open to new concepts and new ideas. They can be molded. Now, usually you'll find human nature, when we share our children with different communities, when they interact with each other, they learn about each other in a very natural way. Unfortunately, the flip side of it is, when you grow them in isolation and you teach them constant mistruths, you are feeding them misinformation about the other side. By the time that child becomes an adult, they will have preconceived ideas. They will judge even before those people start speaking, doubly enforced by the media again. The third thing about apartheid is the weaknesses of human nature itself. The concept is, if you take a group of people and treat them equally in a negative light, they unite against you in the blink of an eye. Take that exact same group and break them into smaller factions. Now treat them slightly differently on a descending scale, a little bit less to each. And the strange thing is, they start fighting each other more than they fight the system itself. This is the core of divide and conquer. This is for this reason that not all racial categories suffer on an equal level. Not because some was better than others, but it is the divide and conquer mentality. On Robben Island, as an example, a colored prisoner like myself, I take no offense to the term, someone of mixed descent or mixed heritage, would be given long sleeve shirts, long pants and shoes, while a black prisoner serving the exact same sentence, possibly for the exact same crime, would be given short sleeve shirts, short pants and no shoes. Now logically, there's no reason for the difference. Psychologically, it creates animosity between the two. This is a smaller concept of the larger idea of apartheid as a whole. Unfortunately, when this system is put into full swing, the nation will not realize generation by generation their thinking is being altered. One law as an example that could be overlooked is the Group Areas Act. South Africans on board will know what I'm talking about. For anybody non-South African, the Group Areas Act says you live in an area strictly only surrounded by your own racial category. Logically, it doesn't make sense. But when you look at Cape Town, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, what you don't realize you're looking at is a city designed with the Group Areas Act in mind. The next time you have the opportunity, stand at the top of Table Mountain and look down on the city below. You can literally eventually start seeing with the naked eye the living areas for the different racial groups. You also start to notice sports fields, highways, or industrial areas that physically separate one group from the other. Now, why is so much effort being put into keeping the racial categories apart? It is the generation growing up in these communities that is the focus, because that generation grows up in isolation and they start the cycle. They are the beginning of apartheid, not the laws itself, but that first generation. They will become parents and unintentionally teach their children who will grow up in the same light. Till eventually that society will think in a certain kind of way and not even realize that it's happening. The evidence of that is today in South Africa, all these years later, we still do the exact same thing without realizing it. We judge even before the next person starts speaking based on the color of their skin. And that is the true legacy of apartheid itself. Why do I take the time to explain this? Why do I take the time to basically bring it into focus? Because Robben Island has a bigger part to play than most people first come to realize. When you take people, political leaders from around the country, you place them in single cells and they know for certain they will never see the light of day again. These people you'll find grow in desperation itself. And you find eventually they reach a point of desperation that they will do things that they would not have done in the outside world, such as overcome their differences to share their resources and work together for the simple sake of survival. They could never have realized that they were not just simply surviving, but they were actually teaching each other about each other and shaping each other into becoming the future leaders we would one day just not come to know, but actually come to need.